You're listening to the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe, a podcast of curated conversations with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development. Get ready for inspiring interviews, educational lessons, and thought-provoking discussions that will challenge you to execute something new and innovative that will drive results in your organization. And now, here's Dr. Taunya Lowe.
You're listening of the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe, using my results driven philosophy of strategy, leadership, teams, and customer experiences. I help organizations develop their best kept secret, their human capital. This podcast is designed to expand the conversation with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development, and what it really takes to create, develop, and maintain results-driven and high-performing organizations. Our guest today is Gerardo Segat. Gerardo is a former chairman, director, and CEO, and he uses his rich tapestry of experiences in helping organizational leaders. Gerardo has become a beacon in the world of transformative coaching and has a strong commitment to humanizing leadership. Driven by a profound sense of purpose, Gerardo's mission is to redefine leadership paradigms, leaving an indelible legacy through the lens of impact. His guiding principles, encapsulated by the watchwords impact, reflect his unwavering dedication to creating positive change in the professional landscape. Gerardo, welcome to RDO.
Hi, Tanya. Wow, what a presentation. Thanks for inviting me, and hello to all your audience.
Oh, yes, we're so excited to have you here. I know that we've been trying to get you here on our show for a while, and I'm glad that you're here in the beginning of this season. So I'm going to jump right in. In your perspective, define for us humanizing leadership, or what does humanizing leadership mean, and why do you believe it's crucial in today's professional landscape?
Humanizing leadership, the way I would define it is where the responsibility of the leader is actually to unleash what a person truly is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to maximize the potential of the person. And to maximize that, there's only one way, and it is to create a space where people can be who they are. Positive, negative, we all are black and white. And so the disruption there is to say it's not only the white, it's also the black, and it's the full package.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a leader needs to create a space where everything comes out and everything is accepted, so that people can feel free to really show up for who they are.
Yeah, I like that. I believe it is the leader's responsibility to maximize the impact of their human capital, of their team. But what I find, Gerardo, is that oftentimes no one has done that for the leader. Therefore, the leader doesn't have the skills to do that. Have you seen that in your work?
Yes. And that's why I chose that direction, and that's why I do what I do.
Yes.
I think it is essential nowadays that the leader set an example. Mm-hmm. So the key is really, deep authenticity and human connection is accessible, and it's contagious, and it's actually accessible because it is contagious. But the key there is to create that safe space where people feel free, And the way to do that is leading by example. So it is for the leader to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to be open, and therefore create a domino effect on the rest of the people, so that people can be, themselves.
You know,
Free.
I love that vulnerability, a leader showing vulnerability, a leader creating that safe space. Have you gotten much pushback from leaders feeling like, all of this talk around authenticity and safe space is making organizations soft and it is moving away from the bottom line? What would you say to a leader that says that
Well,
or feels that way?
I think nowadays there is enough research that shows that vulnerability, openness, somehow unleashes cohesion, trust, and therefore has an impact on performance. Okay, so that's the way to go, and lots of organizations are moving towards that direction. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, the data is not sufficient because we're humans. Okay, and human resist discomfort. Okay, and it's perfectly acceptable and understandable. It's normal. Okay, so what I experience is resistance.
Yes.
Okay, resistance is there to defend the person. It's again, it's a normal behavior. I see that all the time. The way that I approach it and the way that it is to approach it is to accept it peacefully, and not to, try to push it or really try to get there and change that. Yes, we're trying to change that. But the way to do that is, because it is a defensive behavior, it is to somehow create a space where the person feels that it doesn't need to defend anything. Okay, or actually not the person, the mind, his mind or her mind.
Yeah.
So I can give you an example of this. One of the experiences in my program is a speech about vulnerability that I do to boards of corporates or banks, and I was recently in London doing one of these speeches to a board of a bank. There were also 3 other boards connected via Zoom. So I get into the room and there's the technician. I say hello and we are chatting. So the time comes and people join the room. So they enter the room and they don't even say hello. They don't even come to say hi. They just go and sit, talk to each other. Most of the people don't even know the reason why they're there. Okay, so they sit down, and my speech is 1 hour. Half an hour, I talk about vulnerability, the effects, what you get if you show yourself vulnerable, what you don't get, what you miss, or what you risk if you don't show your vulnerability.
Yes.
And then just after second half an hour, I actually share my deepest fragility, and I ask the people to share theirs. Okay. Now, in a certain way, they write it on a post-it note, and I read them aloud in front of everyone. You cannot imagine the things that come out just after half an hour. Like mental disorders or sexual violence or things like this. People end up crying and hugging each other. Okay, both people, not both people. And in this specific case, 2 days after, I get a message from the CEO thanking me, say we're going to change things in our organization so that people can more free to open up. So what I do is to create experiences, and I've created recently a kind of live show with performing arts to do that where people can experience what it is to be
Yes.
vulnerable. And, experiences that create what is technically called psychological safety, so that people
Yes.
can open up.
Yes. As you were talking, I was thinking, wow, what an icebreaker to have people to share their deepest vulnerability right at the beginning of the training. And I find that interesting because as people start sharing and things start coming up and coming out, these are things that people bring to work with them every day. It impacts their performance. It impacts how they integrate with their teams. It how they show up in the organization. And I tell people you can only wear your mask for so long before all of your stuff is going to come out, and you don't get to choose where it's going to come out. Many times it shows up and it comes out at work. But creating an environment where people feel safe to say, you know what, I didn't have a good day yesterday, or I'm exhausted today. I may not be at my best and I may need some help because I was taking care of a sick parent, or my child is in the hospital. Creating that environment where people can really empathize and jump in and support and feel like it's safe to be vulnerable. It's safe to be vulnerable and not, oh my God, I got to hold everything in and not share who I am because they feel like it's going to affect the bottom line. And so thanks for sharing that example because I think just hearing you talk about it, it sounds very powerful.
Yes, it is every time an incredible human experience. And I'm just amazed that all the time by how, people can open up, and, they can open up easily because everyone is just looking forward to find themselves into scenarios and situations where they can be who they are. Anyone, at any level in the organization, and leaders too, and the key, unfortunately, we do it all the time. I mean, wearing masks, judging, shouting, ignoring, blaming, attacking, destroying, all these behaviors are defensive. And unfortunately, when we have it, then most of the times, how do people respond to those? In the same way. If I attack, they counterattack. If I destroy, they will destroy, and it goes on and on and on and on. That's why it spreads.
Yes, it spreads throughout the entire culture of the organization.
Exactly. But that's also why there is an opportunity, because if one changes, okay, then it will start a domino effect, which will be positive instead of negative. Okay, so there is an opportunity. The reality is that once you get to change at a certain level, and most of the times it is at the leadership level, then it goes down towards the organization very quickly.
Yeah. So I love this. I love this conversation, but I've got a couple more questions to ask you. So in your organization, how do you guide leaders to balance the often competing demands of achieving organizational goals and prioritizing the well-being and growth of individual team members? We just talked about creating a space, a safe space where people can be vulnerable and authentic and create psychological safety, but it can also be a balancing act for leaders. So how do you help them to balance that?
I don't actually think that it is a balancing exercise.
Okay.
I think it is more the fact that if I reach one, then automatically I reach the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yes, can you reach, objectives, and can you reach profitability? Can you be successful without them? The answer is yes, you can. Okay. But what's the lost opportunity? How much more could you be, performing, et cetera, if you were in different scenarios?
Mm-hmm.
And you said it before, and this comes out all the time. I say it all the times. You said, look, sooner or later, it's true that you can be a successful entrepreneur, can have a successful career, but sooner or later, life will put you in front of this. And what you're going to have an experience, and it's not nice, is regrets, resentments,
Mm-hmm.
the feeling of no meaning of what you do or in your life, things like this. So
Yes.
do you want to face those feelings? I don't.
Right. I don't
I,
either.
I don't. That's why, I said, look, soon I better decide to walk a different path now,
Yeah.
than facing those regrets. So it's a choice, but sooner or later, you're right. Sooner or later, life, the latest possible moment will be just before dying.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
in life there are events that can happen in your life that will put you in front of this very
Mm-hmm.
clearly.
Absolutely. So, we've been talking a lot about vulnerability and authenticity. Authenticity it's a key value in your leadership approach. I believe in that as well. How do you help leaders cultivate authenticity in their professional roles, and what benefits have you observed when leaders lead authentically? Because for many leaders, it's everything that we're talking about. I know there's probably a leader saying, yeah, that sounds good. Or I'm here just to do my job. What does being authentic mean, and how do I do that? Because these are some of the questions that I get in our coaching program. So how do you help them cultivate authenticity professionally?
I'd say mostly two ways. One is um, by adding inner objectives to their objectives. Okay, so often leaders tend to set themselves outcomes as objectives. Okay, so even myself, for life events, when I was younger, I wanted to become a successful entrepreneur. But for me, successful meant lots of people, lots of offices, lots of money, lots of these things. So setting objectives, even at corporate levels, those are outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the reality is they are outcomes. Okay, then we can say, they are kind of outer objectives. So I say, okay, set yourself inner objectives. What about you? What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to achieve inside of you? What's your, okay? So you go to, inner meaning about what you do in your life. Do you want to have that? Do you want to get to that?
Mm-hmm.
Love, inner love. Do you want to love yourself? Uh, Inner freedom. Do you want to feel free yourself, inside yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Inner certainty. Inner certainty. It doesn't matter. The world is uncertain, but
Mm-hmm.
do you want to be certain about yourself, how you are, how you show up, what you want? So adding inner objectives to outer, let's say, objectives. The other way is to get them to talk about emotions. and not only facts. Okay, so again, one of the things that I do is to change how team meetings are organized. And say, okay, to have certain kind of meeting with a certain format where people share updates, maybe, about their work, their team, the company, their leaders, but they don't not only, talk about facts. I didn't like that. I wish I had that, but the associated emotions. So when people start talking about emotions, they get
Yes.
closer to authenticity, because they say, yes, I didn't like that because it made me feel X or it made me feel Y, And so people start opening up. So talking emotions is something that I use as a gradual approach towards being authentic.
Okay. I can see that being a challenge for some people in the C-suite, but I can also see that being freeing for them as a leader. And I can also see that technique being a way to connect and have better internal relationships within the organization. And so looking at inner meaning and then also adding inner objectives to outer objectives.
Or even emotional objectives. Think about your next important meeting that you have. We normally think again or facts, okay? So I'm going into that meeting and my objective is to get the contract signed. Fine, okay. And how do you want to feel afterwards? Okay, now this opens up, when you ask that kind of question, it opens up a completely new, room. It's like putting the person into a completely new room where the answer, to the answer. But the reality is that, being in a completely new room opens up the clarity of the person, the way that, if you ask that question 2 days before the meeting, what they think they're going to do at that meeting or before that meeting changes completely.
It does.
Completely. They say, if you say, okay, in 2 days, I've got this important meeting and I want to go there and get the contract signed. Fine. So I'm going to prepare in this way. And when I'm there, I'm going to do that. Okay. If you actually add on to that emotional objectives, it changes completely what they're going to do to prepare and what they're going to do at that time of the meeting. Okay, so
tapping into the emotions. So basically looking at your emotions or adding your emotions to the outcomes that you want. Connecting, not adding, connecting your emotions to the outcomes that you want. And so if I go into this, I sign this contract, how do I want to feel afterwards? I want to feel excited. I want to feel energized. I want to be excited to share the news with the team. Those are emotions. And I think that's a great place to, those are what I call, those are easy emotions. And getting a great place for leaders to start if they struggle with authenticity or if they struggle with relating to what it means to truly humanize leadership. I believe there's a lot of work that still has to be done in this place, Geraldo. What are around humanizing leadership, humanizing the people in your organizations? What are your thoughts around that?
There is a lot of work to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done.
And the more you think about, you go up in the leadership ladder, the more there is. I'm going to tell you this thing. I've been in the last 10 years a member of an organization called YPO, which stands for Young President Organization. It's the world's largest community of CEO, 35,000 people in 140 countries.
Wow.
YPO.org. Okay. So I joined in 2013, and I've been chairing chapters in Italy, and I've been starting chapters globally, etc.
Right.
The number one reason for membership in that organization, okay, across all members in all the world, is what they call forum. Forum is a monthly meeting between 7, 8, 9, 10 of them,
Okay.
where they share updates about professional and personal life, talking about emotions. So, sharing it and sharing the emotions and being vulnerable, okay, and opening up and finding support and finding a place where they can be truly themselves, where they don't feel alone, where they find meaning, where they find support, all of that. That is number one reason for membership of the largest community of CEO in the world.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
That's a data, okay?
Yes.
So it shows you where the world is going.
Right. Well, and you're absolutely correct. It's in all of the data, all of the articles that are written now. When you look at the different generations in the workplace, they want psychological safety, they want authenticity, they want to work in a place where they feel valued. And so I'm glad that there's a place that exists that prepares leaders to lead the next generation, to lead the current generation, and to lead the next generation. Because I do believe that when we treat people humanly, you don't have to worry about the bottom line, because people will produce, perform, they're going to work together, they're going to be productive, there's not going to be a lot of lost time because of all of the toxicity that can happen in workplaces. And so it then becomes a place where people like to go to work, and that sounds exciting to me.
Well, it is. I mean, new generation want purpose.
Yes.
From their employers.
Yes.
Or from their job that they do. Purpose and human connection.
Purpose
at the
and human
center.
connection.
At the center. There's another example. One of the most famous turnaround in business history, which is actually taught as a case in business schools, is the one of a company called Best Buy. Best Buy is a large electronic consumer good US-based company. And 10 years ago, it was almost bankrupt. So they called a guy called Hubert Joly, a French guy, to be the CEO of that group. That guy had the clever idea to place purpose and human connection at the center of all stakeholders in the company. So not only employees, but also clients, suppliers, communities, shareholders. The end result of this has been that the stock price of Best Buy multiplied by 11 times. Okay. And you will like that, because you often ask, what is the book? So I'm going to anticipate your question.
Okay.
And there's a book that tells this story. It's actually written by the guy who has been the CEO, by Uberjoli. And the title of this book is The Heart of Business.
The heart?
Heart, yeah. Like the heart,
Yeah.
the heart of business. And in the book, it explains, with practical example, what he actually did in the company. Even from a practical point of view, to place human connection and purpose at the center of the organization. It changed the way that reporting from the CEO to the board was done. It used to be before the figures and then something, and then it changed it completely. At number one, it was HR, and how many different practical things that can be useful to CEOs. To see what placing human connection and having a purpose in their organization is.
Wow. I think many times in organizations, they're working from an old playbook, and so that playbook has to be updated, if you will. I'm using playbook as I think it's a sports analogy. So it's got the plays, and these are the plays from the 80s, which don't work now. And human connection and purpose, like you said earlier, and authenticity and vulnerability, those are the leadership terms that we need to get comfortable with, and we need to start modeling, and we need to start developing more leaders that understand that model. I sometimes will say that leadership styles are out of style. like old clothes, they're out of style. You really have to look at, how do I connect with the people in the organization, and not focus so much on, well, my style is this, and that style might not be what is needed in order to move the organization forward. It could be hindering the organization and keep the organization from achieving great heights. And so this whole talk, here we are at the first of the year, talking about humanizing leadership. I really hope that those who are listening really take this approach to heart and learn more about it. And I'll tell you how you can connect with both Gerardo and myself, but learn more about it. Connect with people that are helping people utilize, I don't want to call it a philosophy, but maybe it is a philosophy, or it's just a new way of leading. And look at how you can really incorporate this over the next 90 days, the next quarter in your organization, even if it's small steps. Gerardo, you have a program, you created a program, you're the founder of a program called Preludes. It focuses on creative and powerful original experiences, like the experience you described to us earlier. Can you elaborate on how these experiences contribute to the work that you do in humanizing leadership? And if you have some examples of some transformation, can you share that with us?
Yeah, well, before I mentioned, I have given you an example. So it is, yes, using, let's say, the coaching methodology,
Yes.
but also always associated with a powerful idea. Okay, now in this case, it is a speech given to board of directors. In other cases, it is a format of meeting, as I mentioned before. Another thing I do is build together with the corporate leadership an interaction model with clients. So a way to interact with clients. So it is always a kind of idea that I know is powerful and that create a strong impact. For me, impact is a key word. So that's why I created all these different experiences. And I also love learning by creating. And so, I put together two things.
Yes.
Some of these experiences, they touch all different levels of the stakeholders. So they touch employees, they touch clients, they touch, customers, shareholders, etc. And some of them are also kind of group. So one of the experiences I created is called Out as Humans, and it's a show. It's a live show that combines performing arts with powerful questions. So poetry, singing, dancing, artists, etc., with some powerful, intimate questions. And to make the organization, to make people experience openness, vulnerability, and unleash, maximize cohesion, sense of belonging, etc., etc. So this is what I do.
Wow, it almost sounds like a leadership Cirque du Soleil is what it sounds like.
Yes, I like that. I actually like that. It is, and I hope one day, my aim, it is my goal. I actually believe that one day this show will be featured it is my plan to take it to the, some world leader conventions like World Economic Forum, G20, 10, etc., and have them feature this show there and have those world leaders experience this kind of, situations.
I think it would be a powerful experiential exercise for people to tap into, that won't create a need for people to become defensive, but will open up and share, and you'll be sharing and won't even realize, wait a minute, I'm sharing, I'm exposing myself. I would never say these things in any other environment. I love that. I love incorporating the arts with powerful questions. Gerardo, what are you reading that we should be reading? And I think I already know the answer.
Well,
I think I know the answer already. Is it the heart of business? Is it the heart of business?
Yes, I think, if I have one book to recommend, is that one.
Yes.
It is both. It has both components. It is, philosophical in a certain way.
Yes.
Which I think is important. But pragmatic is also important. So it combines both things, and so there's a lot of practical value also for anyone leading, companies, groups, teams, projects, whatever they're leading, or any leaders.
Wow.
The heart of business. Hubert Joly.
And that will be in our show notes, because I believe we all should be reading that, especially this time of the year. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We've been chatting with Gerardo Segat. Visit the show notes page to see how to connect with him. While you're there, you can grab the 4 keys to a high-performing workplace. You can use the link in the show notes page and grab our special gift to you for being a valuable listener. Like I said, there will be links there. So please connect with Gerardo to learn more about humanizing leadership. Until next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Results Driven Organizations Podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe. Be sure to review the show notes for the resources mentioned, and don't forget to grab your free gift of